it's Ginny, Tim, and Eli from DS Tech in Escanaba, Michigan. And we're going to talk about the top 5 regrets of businesses who have been hacked. And we do have stories. We're not going to name names, but we do have stories of actual incidents. And we can actually tell you from experience what these clients regret.
You've seen them. Yeah.
You know, like, I wish I had.
Yep.
So instead of you saying, I wish I had, now you have the information to be on top of it. So,
yeah. So these are just common, I guess you'd say, regrets from people that have had either an incident, an actual true hack, or maybe had a close call and then realized, oh, wow, I got away from it, you know, and maybe then you can button holes and learn from your mistakes, right? So the biggest, you know, number one is they wish we didn't invest in cybersecurity sooner, you know, in the first place. And the way I describe this is businesses, you know, in the last however many years have been like, you got an IT budget and it's just like, that's it. It's one line item in your accountant and you have a certain budget for the year. And that encompasses like buying new computers when they break, maybe a server, maybe your licensing. Everything IT is kind of in this one bucket. The problem is that cybersecurity has evolved so much that it's almost like a recurring cost you're going to have, much like electricity to keep your lights on. And so people are kind of skimping on the cybersecurity budget. If, oh, I got a server upgrade this year and I only got $10,000 budget and the server's taking $8,000. I only got $2,000 for cybersecurity. Really, you need to kind of change your thinking that you have an IT budget and you have a cybersecurity budget as a separate line item in your accounting, because the cybersecurity budget typically is going to stay the same monthly for the services, the security, things like that, where your IT budget is typically going to fluctuate depending on hardware renewals and things like that. So just keep that in mind as a business. That will really help you plan and make sure you're not skimping out on cybersecurity when all of a sudden something happens and you need to replace it, because cybersecurity is so important now. I look at it as a necessary item to have a business. Like if you're not going to have cybersecurity, you want to open up a business, it's like, I hate to say it, you probably shouldn't even be in business, because you're just asking. It's not a matter of if, it's just when you're going to get, you know, you're going to get hacked, and then all your clients are going to be at it. So try to think of cybersecurity as like a utility, whether you got to keep the lights on with power or water. It's like, it's just kind of a necessary thing you need to have a small business nowadays. If you, once you hit to a certain point threshold and you're dealing with market forces. So, so just make sure to take the time to invest in cybersecurity. And just, if you want an assessment, know where you're at. Obviously, if you're a client of ours, we're taking pretty good care of you, but you can always bump up to the next level. There's always things you can do. So just reach out and we'll kind of go from there.
I actually remember a client, that's exactly what they said to us.
What?
They were like, because they got hacked.
Okay.
And this was earlier, you know, in our cybersecurity world.
Right.
But that's what they said. That I wish I had taken your advice, our advice, seriously, because, you know, you told me.
Right.
You told me, and I still got hacked and almost lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you think you can't afford another, you know, however much it is per month to protect yourself, you really are.
And it's like the cost of that security compared to the ramifications. If you did have an incident or a breach, there could be potential fines depending on your vertical you're in. Then you have to spin up a whole new business. I mean, there's a whole cost, and you have reputational damage if something did actually happen. There's a lot of more costs associated with an incident than just the initial number you may get. So the cost of cybersecurity, again, it's just like having that insurance. It's
the recovery alone costs probably a couple years worth of paying for the cybersecurity. Yeah. So, and taking that hit right there, that's what the debilitating part was. But I mean, we were able to help them recover, but that was,
could have been a lot less painful.
Yeah. So they wish they had considered and invested in cybersecurity before. So don't have that regret.
Yep. And the biggest thing I will explain, you know, to businesses again is, think of it as a separate line item in your budget. You got your IT budget, and now you're going to your cybersecurity budget, and that will really help you plan for the future to try to make sure that you're not skimping on the cybersecurity, with that. So another common, I guess regret is we didn't back up our data regularly. So typically, if there's ever a ransomware event or an event where they're trying to take your data and hold you hostage or whatever it is with it, as long as you have good backups and you're able to prove that the backups weren't affected and you can restore to the incident, you're not going to pay the ransom. You shouldn't be paying the ransom anyway, because now you're just giving money to these attackers who are going to take that money and try to harm others with it. So you always want to try avoiding paying the ransom if possible and just restoring to a point in time prior to. And then at that point, you're usually going to bring in like a forensics team, an incident response team. DS Tech will work with that team, with the insurance, all that kind of stuff to figure out when did they finally get a foothold, restore to a point prior to, and make sure everything is nice and clean before turning the light switch back on again, saying everything's good to go. So we have a whole response plan, built into it for all of our clients. We will help that. But the biggest thing is having good backups will save the day. If you don't have good backups, you can't, when you get ransomed, it's just, you're not going to recover. You basically got to usually start over. And then the thing is, if you pay the fine to these attackers, you're going to really trust they're going to give you the proper key to unlock it. I mean,
just painting a bigger target.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're going to come at you again to be like, oh, they paid us out last time. Let's attack them in 3-4 more years. And then I've just heard it where there's repeat attacks on businesses who paid ransoms or other attackers are like, dude, they just got paid ransom.
Yeah.
And now you got 20 other attackers targeting you because you just paid the ransom. You put a target on your back. So don't pay the ransom. Have good backups.
It is awful.
That's the biggest thing you can do. Another kind of regret is a lot of times after an incident or before it happens, they're like, well, I could have swore that person knew not to click the phishing link or, or whatever it is that we always talk about.
Don't click that link. Come on.
So it's like we thought our employees knew better, right? Or, oh, we got ransomware and now some new employee who's been there for 2 weeks takes a picture of their computer screen. They're like, hey, I don't have to work today. And they post it on Facebook. And now it's just, you're in a world of mess, right? Dealing with that too. So you got to know, you got to train your employees in security awareness, what they can and cannot do. If there's an event, what they should do, how to report it, and how to proceed. So there's some very basic training you should do when you onboard your staff, but then also have it recurring, where you do it once a yearly refresher to remind employees who may forget about this because they don't deal with the day-to-day, that this stuff is important. It can affect everyone, and we are as a team. So everyone from the person that does marketing to the security expert, everyone needs to be on the same page. So that way the entire corporation,
even the security experts have clicked the link.
Oh yeah.
Or fallen for the scam.
Yeah.
So it's just important to have that ongoing training.
Yep.
To keep.
And that's why you have layers too in
yeah,
place.
Absolutely. We're all human.
We'll have email protection to try to scrape out most of the spam before it hits your networks, but some of it still slips through at that point if it clicks on the link. Ideally, there's security software that may potentially stop it from spreading. If it does start spreading, then there's software that can actually isolate the machine. So there's lots of layers in place to ideally prevent it becoming a huge incident, but it all starts with that initial click. So if you can stop that initial click, it'll just save a lot of time and headache on everyone's.
Well, and then they start to recognize the patterns, of what the phishing emails look like. I mean, it's practice, right?
Exactly.
And what's your key phrase you always say? You can patch.
Oh yeah, you can patch computers all you want, but at least right now you still can't patch humans. I don't know what Elon Musk has planned in 20 years.
Yeah, Neuralink.
Leave me out of that, but teach their own. And anyway, that's just my thought with that.
Yeah.
You can't patch them. You can only train them and hope that they learn.
That's right.
Absolutely.
The one is that we didn't secure our remote workforce, and this is a headache we hear all the time. And mainly it's leftover remnants from the lockdowns when we had the COVID and everyone's working remote, scrambling to do all that kind of stuff, right? What happened is everyone's scrambling to set up these remote computers. What you should do as a business is only have work issued computers for your staff to use, and they are only allowed to sign in with their work credentials on that computer and not use it for anything else.
Yep.
Don't let your kid use it for Minecraft, because what's going to happen is or YouTube or Facebook or anything, because what's going to happen is if they click on any bad link, you get an info stealer on that thing, and now you log in with your work credentials. Boom, there you go. Now they have all of it. So you should have a work issued device dedicated to work, only for work, that has all the security stack on it that you do not use for any other purpose for that. And the same thing on your personal devices. Say you're at home and for some reason, I left my work laptop at the office, but I just need to check this email because someone's supposed to get in touch with me. Again, if you logged into your email on a personal device that was a gaming computer or anything else that has other stuff on it that you use personally, they can scrape that stuff. And then next thing you know, they're into your work environment, and it just goes from there.
Or your phone.
Or your phone, exactly. You're on your personal phone. Again, you should have a work-issued phone ideally, or a personal one. Or if you have one that's both, then your personal that work gave you should have all the security stuff on it, and you should just know not to use your phone for like all these other fun activities. Ideally, try to use it for work and for its main purpose.
So we actually, our techs all have a DS Tech phone, right?
Yes.
That's separate from their personal phone.
Yep.
Right?
Some of them, I think, do use it like because it's like almost like an option too. I think some of them do use it as well, but they know that like, I'm not going to be gaming on this phone. I'm not
Yeah.
going to be. We have written in the policy that we
Gotcha.
only use it for work purposes
So we have a
or to make
policy
calls.
and we have software that is on our devices,
Yep.
right? So, and I'll tell you, it sounds like a pain in the butt.
MDM, mobile device management, is a common term you may hear.
Yeah, and it sounds like a pain in the butt to have to bring home a computer from work to
Mhm.
have it at home so that you can use it for
If you
work.
needed to, but
It's way easier.
yes.
I love it
And your stuff
because
syncs from work to home because if you have, well, at least with the Microsoft Suite or whatever suite you have, you can set it up to where when you log in at work, everything syncs. So all your bookmarks are now in both
yeah,
of them.
everything's
Your
there.
desktop looks the same between the both, and it can be very a good experience, you know.
It is.
But it's very common where people are like, well, I'm just going to use my personal computer
Yeah.
to log into my work computer and then work from it. But it's like if that personal computer has InfoStealer or malware on it, it can get that initial credential that allows you to connect. So if you are using personal devices at home, sometimes I've seen it where they agree to install the security software on it,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. But then when you do that, keep in mind that the company now technically kind of like not really owns that computer, but if anything were to happen, they can grab that computer for forensics because you're using it for work purposes, typically is how the law works. So that's why I personally have a separate one for each one.
Yeah, and I
so
like
that
to
way-
keep the work separate from the home life anyway.
Exactly.
100%.
You
So-
need to step away from your work anyway.
So if you're having
So-
remote employees, the biggest thing is make sure they have a work issued computer with all the security stuff on it. They're not just not ad hocing, logging into their own personal computer at a whim if needed. Even in a true emergency, it's better to just take the delay than to really do that because of the ramifications. Because you can use VPNs, all this other stuff to remote in, but even if you had a VPN on your computer and all this other stuff, and like I said, your 10-year-old downloaded a Minecraft mod, which was an info sealer, now you got your stuff gone. So try to just keep gaming and work and stuff separated. That's the biggest thing that we see with remote workforce. So, and lastly, is the companies who do go through an event, whether it be a full-on incident or a close call or anything, they always wish they had an incident response plan before the event. The big thing with that is you think about a fire drill, you practice with your kids all the time and you hope you never have a fire. Well, you don't want to be practicing your fire drill during the fire with your kids,
No.
right?
No.
You need to practice
Oh my
this ahead of time. You need to make sure that everyone knows what to do, what windows to go out, what exits to do. The same thing is like when you come in and everyone's screen says ransomware, all the employees know not to take pictures and post it on Facebook, and then usually you have a delegated person that speaks with media. There's all these rules that go into place, as well as how to recover, contacting the right contacts first. Who do we call? Do we call DS Tech? Do we call our insurance? Do we call our lawyers? Like, what do we do?
Who do you call
and
first?
so you need to have this
Go
plan in
Ghostbusters.
place with
Yep.
delegated staff, as well as usually keep a hard copy of it, because it's also, if it's saved digitally and all your computers get bricked, well, how do you access your response plan if it's all in a digital file? So you need to have a printed hard copy for owners of the response plan to keep in the case that they're all on the same page and they communicate. Usually you'll have off-channel communications because if, for example, say my DS Tech account gets hacked, well, we'll assume they're watching what we're saying on our DS Tech account. So we actually will create usually temporary accounts. There's all this stuff that goes involved. I won't go into too much details, but the idea is you need to have some sort of a plan in place where if something were to happen, be it someone clicks a phishing link all the way to we walk in and it's ransomware, what do we do? How do we respond? And typically incident response plans are tailored to digital specific disasters. Usually there's an overarching business continuity plan or a disaster recovery plan, which talks about, tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, power loss, snowstorms, everything in it. And then like a digital event is a subsection of that. And then that references the actual incident response plan, which is the verbose document you follow due to a true digital event. So just make sure you have an incident response plan. A lot of insurances now are actually requiring you to have one. But the one thing I will tell you that's kind of be careful. It's like when you have your incident response plan and you give it to insurance, it's not like they're actually reviewing it and be like, oh, yep, this is good and that's good and go. It's pretty much like a self-honor system where you say, I have a, incident response plan and you submit it. Now it's also it's slightly like the MFA thing where they're like, do you have MFA enabled everywhere? You're like, yes, they're not going to go into your environment and verify. But now if you had an incident and you didn't have MFA and that's how it got started, guess what? They're not going to pay you out.
Cover it.
Same thing as if you didn't have an incident response plan and you were panicking for 2 days trying to get everything and they got a bigger foothold because of that. I mean, maybe the insurance might not want to pay out as much. I haven't heard so much stories about that, but I've heard the horror stories about the MFA stuff.
Yeah.
So just make sure you do have a true incident response plan. It's being vetted. meet with us. We'll go through it with you, make sure it's all up to par. And you should really have one in place. Even if you think I got 10 employees and 6 computers, why do I need a plan? It's like you should still have the plan no matter
Yeah.
what, because during an
Have data.
event, emotions, you're stressed, all this other stuff, it's good to have a checklist to work through and to make sure that everyone's on the same page. So
So don't
So,
have these regrets.
conclusion, don't have any of these regrets by reaching out to us.
Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely. Absolutely. You can go to dstech.net to get in touch with us, or you can drop a comment and I'll see it and I'll get in touch with you, or however you want. But we have a plan for you. I mean, we can help you with your plan.
Yep.
Put it that way.
Yep, because every
You've
business is
been
different.
through-
Every environment, the software you use, the employees, everything's different. So there's not like a template that can be like, here's your template, fill it out. It's going to be unique for every business, and there's some common things between them, but overall it's going to be like more of a consulting thing where we're going to discuss with you your business, and which aspect can you be without for an hour, for 2 hours, for 8 hours, for a day, and kind of just make a specific plan for that. So
Yeah, and we've been through all of these examples with
Yes.
someone.
Yep.
So
We're well versed.
we know what we're doing there. So visit
Yep.
dstech.net and drop your comments and your questions, and we'll see you next time. Something in my way, I'll have to trim that.